When men meet women in a romantic setting, he will put her into one of three boxes. He wants to date her, he wants to sleep with her, or he wants nothing to do with her. Where women get really confused is
the amount of female friends that I have that have given up on dating.
Yeah.
Like, not even just like, I'm not sure. They've given up.
Yeah.
And so I really want to talk about today how on earth we've gotten there, what we can do, what are the things that we're getting trapped in, and then unwinding it, and so that we can actually empower people to actually start dating. Because I think we can all agree that finding somebody when they're right for you can be beautiful. So take me through box theory.
So box theory is my theory that when men meet women in a romantic setting, so that means a date or, meeting on a dating app or something like that, or a blind date, he will put her into one of three boxes. He wants to date her, he wants to sleep with her, or he wants nothing to do with her. Okay, if it's the third box, easy peasy, like everyone should be clear on that one. Where women get really confused is if they're in between the date box and the hookup box. If you're in the date box, you can act almost any way you want and he will still want to date you. So if he's decided, like, I want to date this girl seriously, you can get drunk on the first date, you can sleep with him on the first date, you can puke on his shoes. He will not care because he's already made that decision. If you're in the hookup box, vice versa, he has already made the decision that he doesn't want to date you seriously. You could act like a nun. You could act like a chaste, not have sex with him for months. You could talk about how much you love dogs and your family. It's still not going to change his mind. And then people say, well, Tinx, you're putting all the power into the guy's hands. And I say, you're looking at it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. It's actually about knowing where you stand. And what could be more powerful than knowing where you stand? I also really advise against trying to manipulate your way into getting someone to date you. So, for example, a lot of the times one of my, people who follow me on social media will write to me and say, I'm dating this guy, I've been dating this guy casually for 4 months. Why won't he be my boyfriend? Do you think it's because I slept with him? And I'm like, you're in the hookup box. And why would you want to manipulate someone into dating you? You should want someone who's that one. It's clear for me. So I think that you should know where you stand. You should sleep with men when you want to, because that's the most powerful choice at all. You shouldn't withhold sex because you think it's going to manipulate them into wanting to date you. You should know where you stand and do what you want.
That's amazing. Why do people think, though, that's putting power in their hands? What's the fear?
I think that they think I'm saying, well, the guy decides if you're going to date or not. And I'm that's exactly what I'm trying to say to not to do with my book. It's you decide, do I even like this guy? I think women get so trapped in this idea of does he like me? Does he like me? Does he want me to be his girlfriend? Never once thinking well, wait, do I want him to be my boyfriend? Does he make me feel amazing? Does he make me feel funny? Do I think he's good enough for me? Again, it's because of scarcity mindset. It's not anybody's fault. We're told that there's limited good guys and that, our looks are a depreciating asset and all of this stuff fed this from when we're little. So it's no wonder that we are, in some senses, and I'm speaking from personal experience, desperate to just get a boyfriend.
Or thinking through, okay, if I do this, then I think I'm going to get him. And then when you do it, because you think that he's going to put you in the love box, right? Or the relationship box. And then I think if you get surprised by the fact that you weren't in that box, now I think a lot of us, we beat ourselves up.
Yeah, we take everything. We take dating. Obviously we take dating personally. It does feel like people are, judging you. But oftentimes in the early stages, the other person doesn't know you that well. So it's okay, you go on 3 random dates with someone and then they ghost you. Does it sting? Absolutely. But are they actually making a judgment on your character? No, they don't really know you. They don't know you like your friends and your family do. They're just didn't get the vibe and they don't have good manners. That's all ghosting is.
And when you've got, I think, your own insecurities, if you've been let down in the past, if you don't feel great about yourself, when you put yourself out there and you maybe mistake the box that you're in, it can really be detrimental, even worse to your self-esteem.
For sure. You can I think the worst place to be is in the hookup box and be delusional, which I've been so many times. It's I call it hookup box delusion. You're clearly in the hookup box. He does not text you consistently. He doesn't remember things about your life. He doesn't ask you questions. He doesn't care to see you except for on the weekends. He makes last minute plans. He doesn't respect your time. But you think if you just hold on for one more week, he's going to flip all of a sudden, turn around and be you know what? Now I'm going to date you. no, that's not romantic. Like I always say, do you want to be telling your grandkids like, yeah, and after a year of stringing me along, your grandpa finally like let in and just he was tired and then I got him. Like that's not what anyone should receive. That's not like the bare minimum is not enough for anyone, and that's why it's so important for everybody, but especially women, to have good self-esteem, because then you don't do that.
Yeah, so true. And I'm always thinking about what holds people back from trying again, right? Where we started from, that people are just giving up. That isn't a solution.
Yeah.
So I really like the box theory because I'm so tactical, because I can get in my own head with my own emotions. And I think a lot of us women can. So having tactics like this, almost going on the first day and going, okay, Tinx taught me that there's multiple boxes. After the first date, maybe assessing which box, like, in fact, I'd love you to hear you. Which box do I think they've put me in? Is that a good...
That's a great way to think about it. And I mean, it's really, really simple, right? Because to me, if a guy texts you the next morning, he's like, hey, I had a great time. Are you free Thursday? I would love to take you out again. That's a good sign. You know, it's not a surefire sign that you're in the date box, but it's looking pretty good. If he waits for 3 days to text you, you're probably not in the date box, and that's okay. Then it's up to you to decide, am I okay with dating this person casually, or am I looking for something more serious and this doesn't suit me? You have the power if you know where you stand.
I love that. And now talk to me about the box theory for women towards men.
Reverse box theory.
Yeah.
Okay, so reverse box theory is my theory that, well, it happens to, again, this is all from personal experience. Women prematurely put men in the date box. So they'll be on a dating app, they'll see a guy, they'll match, they will plan to go on a date. Before they have even gone on a date with this guy, seen what he looks like, smelled him, heard his laugh, blah, 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 they have decided that he is going to be their husband. And they put him on a pedestal. They stalk his Instagram. Oh, he has one picture with a dog. He likes animals. Like, this is amazing. He's basically Jane Goodall. This is fantastic. Oh my God, he has a picture with his family. He's tight with his family. Oh my God, this is, you know, the man of your dreams. I'm planning the wedding. And why that is detrimental is because, again, it puts him on a pedestal. So you walk into the date super nervous, having constructed a personality for this person who you have never met before. You feel like you're in a job interview, basically, which is not what a date is. And it causes you to kind of go blind and not really think about how the other person is making you feel, because you've already decided in your head you are desperate for this person to be your boyfriend, even though he's giving you nothing apart from a virtual match on an app.
And I believe that for women, men can bounce from box to box.
100%. See, I've had so many instances where, you know, my friends will sit down at lunch and say, I'm never going on another date with that guy. And 6 months later, they're head over heels in love. And that's just, I believe men and women date differently and we think differently about this stuff. And I think that that's an amazing thing, that beautiful thing, that women can change their minds and evolve and grow, and like guys can evolve for them. And it's certainly happened to me, but the same just isn't true for guys.
Yeah, because as I was thinking, because I've heard you tell your story about how, I believe it was during COVID, one of your best male friends, you were like starting to see him in a different light.
Yeah.
And I really do think about what happened. Obviously, COVID being a slightly different situation, but I think that there's the safety, right? So when you have a male friend, you can trust them more. And women really, I think, do need trust to orgasm. Women need trust to be honest and vulnerable and give over, especially if they've had a bad past experience.
Yeah.
So almost like, I can understand why the women do it, but it is fascinating that we all, and I'm just going to speak for myself actually, I always project, right? So I'm like, oh, they must feel the same.
Right.
So when you have a male friend, sometimes I think you can think the same's going to happen.
Totally. I mean, I think we've all had, you know, men and women, it's such an interesting question. Like, can they be friends? Like, just platonic friends? I think that someone always has like a little bit of a crush in a male-female friendship. And that's definitely what happened for me. I mean, it was COVID. I was isolating alone and I just started hanging out with my best guy friend a lot more. And then all of a sudden I was like, man, like, you're looking kind of good. Like, we should, you know, start hooking up. And, you know, things got complicated, but happy that we got through it. The full story is in the book, so you'll have to read to hear all the details, but you can survive sleeping with your best friend and still be friends afterwards.
Nice, that's good to know. All right, homie, I love how freaking tactical you get in your book, so I want to get super tactical, because again, we could do it. Like, I really want people at home, once they leave this interview, to say, oh my God, I want to date again.
Let's do it.
So, okay, I've been like asking all my friends, where do you get tripped up? What holds you back? And let's just start from the beginning. So you said, okay, number one, be funny.
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's referring to like dating app messages, or if you're going to DM someone, like don't DM someone and just be like, I don't know, something dry, like, oh my God, I've never done this before. Like, I think you're kind of cute, whatever. Just like, I think you got to be short, witty, funny, but I'm all about the DM slide. Like it's worked for me in the past. So,
so what's the DM slide?
I think you could totally hit on someone in the DM. I think it's cute to be like short and sweet and try to find a joke. Like recently I've been enjoying, if you match with someone on a dating app, I think it's kind of fun to then go DM them. I don't feel like dating apps are that sexy sometimes. So it's like, if you match with someone, you think that they're really cute, it's fun to go DM them and be like, are you here? Like, I don't know, it's fun.
That's so cute. So, so let's even just take that. Depending on who it is, how do you know? I mean, I guess you don't necessarily know how they're going to perceive it because everybody lives in their own world. Everyone has like their own frame of reference, right? So, while something like that, you're like, oh, that's really cute. And someone else may perceive it as like, wow, they've come over here.
Yeah. And I think growing up is realizing that if someone doesn't receive your message in the way that you intended it, like they probably aren't for you. And that's okay, right? Like it's happened to me a bunch of times. Like, you know, someone doesn't get my humor or they, you know, they just don't get it. And it's like, then they were never going to be my person anyway. Like if you don't like sarcasm, we're never going to be together, and that's okay. Whereas in my younger years, I definitely would have like taken it so personally and beat myself up being like, why didn't I send a different message? It's like, who cares? You have to honor your past choices and like where you were in that moment. And if that's what you felt like writing and it didn't land, that's okay. Like what's meant for you doesn't miss you.
I love that. Okay, so you say be funny, don't say just.
Yes, that's true for all women in all areas of life, but we need to take out the word just from our vocabulary. Like, I just wanted to check in. I'm checking in about the document you owe me or whatever, you know, or I'm just feeling I'm feeling annoyed because you haven't texted me since Friday. Whatever it is, like take out the word just. It makes it so much stronger.
Yeah. All right. So now I want to talk about the ick list.
Yes. So the ick list is a little tool that I've developed when I'm in the early stages of dating someone. You know, women get icks, and an ick is like a feeling of cringe that you get. It could be something like he bends over and you see his bum crack and you're just like, I got the ick. Or he holds his fork really weirdly. You get the ick. It's not a red flag, really big difference. It's not like a major personality flaw. It's something small that the guy does and you're just kind of like, ooh, like that turned me off a little bit. Write it down in your phone. Keep a list. Some people think it's toxic. I don't really care. I found it to be very helpful. And this is helpful for several reasons. First of all, if you feel yourself getting like what I call bajiggity, like, oh my God, obsessed with him, like you're overly like obsessed and like freaking out over it, you can read the list and it will cool you down. You can be like, I remember that, you know, he tripped that time and it was embarrassing, and like I remember that and it cools me down. Secondly, if you ever do break up with them, you can read it and you can refresh yourself and be like, see, it's okay. It's just a very helpful tool to like humanize them, because I think myself included, sometimes in the early stages of dating, I'm like, wow, I get so over the top excited and just need to come back down to earth.
And I love that you just own that.
Oh yeah, you got to own your shit. I need it sometimes. So, because I future trip, I get excited. I like meet a guy and I'm creating fake scenarios in my head when really he's just like a human man. Like he's just another human being.
Yeah, and we future trip because we have a desire of, I want to maybe get married, start a family, and so like, is this the person?
Yeah, exactly. We're rushing everything. We want to see, you know, if that's the person, and like, look, the thing is, either they'll be your person, in which case, relax, enjoy, you found them, or they won't. But really all we have is now, and that's something that I've worked on a lot lately in therapy and in the past couple years of my life, is just like, we are only in the present. So it's okay to be excited about a guy, like by all means, that is the best feeling in the world, but you have to drop into like we'll see mentality and just be like, I'm excited, but we'll see.
The we'll see mentality. I like that. Okay, so let's talk about the people that I'm sure say that sounds really superficial. Now you're judging them on something small. So let me give you a perfect scenario. I meet my husband, we go on a first date. I'm thinking, oh my God, I future fake, right? Like, oh, he's this person.
Right.
And I'd expected, because I was used to, and I was taught that a nice car, nice rims, stereo, all meant that the guy had a great job, he could provide, right? And so being Greek Orthodox, I was brought up to basically have the belief that that's what you should go for.
Yeah.
And so I meet my husband, we go on our first date, and we pull up, and he's got this really old man Buick, like a rusty, broken down, the door doesn't work, and then the back seat is all full of chock-a-block of just like crap. And so in my head, I guess it's the ick list, right? In my head, I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
But then he opened the car door. And I was like, oh my God, chivalry's alive. Like I'd never been on one date.
Right.
So where do you, if someone's listening, right, draw that line of this may hold you back from them realizing he's the guy that opens the car door?
I think an ick is different than a judgment on someone's belongings. I'm going to be real with you on that. And like, you know, you owned it. I think that's amazing to be able to own your shit and whatever. But I think for me, an ick list isn't like, oh, he has a small apartment. It's like an ick, which is like tripping, or like he's singing along to a song and gets the words wrong, or he like had spinach in his teeth. It's like a cringe. Like, I think that for me, I've always found that you've got to just reserve judgment with stuff and things, because you know what? It's just stuff and things at the end of the day, and they're not like who a person is. Like, I think it's definitely important to manifest like the type of person that you want, but I don't think it's helpful when people are like, oh, I want a guy who's like has exactly brown hair and blue eyes and like is a doctor and like he's from this part of town and like has this and that. And it's like, well, I don't know if that sort of specificity actually serves us. I more think you should manifest and be like, I definitely want someone who's like obsessed with their family, or I want someone who's really funny, or I want someone who like, you know, makes me feel like this or that. Like, that's kind of, I think, so important for us to focus on.
Have you dated someone that's made an ick list on you that you know of?
I don't know, but I'm sure I've given everyone I date the ick. I mean, I'm very like, I kind of like to be my most like raw version up front, you know, because I think it's like you got to throw guys in the deep end a little bit. At least that's what I like to do. I'm like, I tell them all my bad stuff first, because then it gets it out the way. So
is that because you don't necessarily want to waste any of your time where you're like, if he doesn't even know this about me, this is something that's so true? Like, what's the reason for that?
I don't know. I think it's like, maybe it's a defense mechanism where I'm like, I need them to know I'm crazy now. But also I think it's just more honest. I think first dates, I have a really hard time with small talk. So for example, for me, it's just easier if I open and I'm like, I want to talk about like black holes on the first date or like whatever. And if they don't go there with me, or if I ask some weird question and they're just like, oh, like, I want to talk about like what your job is or like where you're from or something, I'm just like, it's not a match, and that's okay. You know, it's just like you should, as much as possible, bring your whole self to the date and just be upfront about it, because then you'll know sooner. Like, I sometimes think we play this, at least I know that when I was younger, I would present the best version of me on dates, and it's like I said before, it's not a job interview with cocktails. A date is like a vibe check. It's an energy check. So the more you can be your authentic self and see if that matches with their authentic self, the more information that you'll have.
Yeah, I literally used to do the same, and now projecting, thinking back, I think it was because I had such low self-esteem.
Yeah.
I wanted to get the job, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and again, a lot of us do. A lot of us are like when I was really young, I would like pretend. I had one boyfriend in college, and I like fully pretended that I knew about basketball. Like, I fully like pretended. He was like, do you want to go watch the game at the sports bar? And I was like, yes. And I like had my friends text me like what to say. I was like, great shot, you know, great shot, LeBron. And he was like, yeah, totally. And but that's also because it's just like, I think my life is a Netflix movie, and I like doing dumb shit like that. But and now I'm just like, I'm so honest up front. I'm like, I'm a crazy cat lady. Like, I'm really moody. Like, I really throw them in. I like have them meet my friends. Like, it's on the second date. Like, I'm just very like, this is the package and like take it or leave it kind of thing. And this is a big part of the book is like, I'm really, really, really excited to fall in love. Like I love being in love and I can't wait to meet my partner. But I also am so immensely grateful for the life I have now. So I don't need to entertain anything that doesn't feel amazing. And that's a great place to be. And I want everyone who reads the book to get to that place of like, two things can be true at the same time. I think sometimes when people, hear about dating advice, about like, filling up your own cup first, they're like, well, that person's never going to find anyone. That person's not excited to be, married or whatever. That's not true. It's like practicing immense gratitude for this moment. Because like, what if I told anyone out there who's single, like in a year from now, you will be engaged to your dream partner? How would you act today? You would act happy, grateful, relaxed, spend extra time with your family and friends, soak it all in. That's how we should all act all the time. So that's just, how I do it.
I love that. And actually, I was thinking, because I used to be the person, put on your best behavior, your favorite outfit, look the most best you possibly can. And on the first date with my husband, he's like, so why do you believe in God? And
I love
like,
that.
I was like, wow, no one's ever asked me that before.
I think that's dope. That's like my kind of date question too.
And then the second one is like, oh no, I love porn. Do you watch porn?
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this man?
No, totally. And it's just like, isn't that so, and see, you still remember it 22 years later, because it's like, to me, it's like dating is kind of like podcasting. Like when you sit down and the podcaster is like, how did you get started on TikTok? I'm like, oh Lord, here we fucking, it's the same as if you sit down on a date and they're like, where are you from? And for me, that's hard. For some people, they like it. They like to warm up like that. For me, no, I'm like, go in, ask me about God, ask me about death, ask me about my family. Like, let's fucking go, because that's how you connect. Yeah. That's how I connect, at least. So if they're not wanting to go there, then I don't know, probably not a match.
What up, my homies? It's Lisa Bilyeu, and I'm so excited to share with you my new mini-series exclusively on Spotify, releasing all month long during the month of May. I'll be talking with entrepreneurs, doctors, artists, therapists, thought leaders, and anyone else who knows what it takes to find balance in your life, the importance of putting yourself first, and how to take back your freaking control and your power of your mental and physical health. I've partnered with BetterHelp for this series to help bring you these inspiring and empowering episodes. BetterHelp knows how important it is to feel supported, not just through Mental Health Awareness Month, but all year round. Because let's face it, that's what it takes to be a freaking badass and achieve your dreams. And the best part, it's completely free and it's available exclusively on Spotify. Search for Women of Impact on Spotify and visit betterhelp.com/impact theory to get 10% off your first month. Yeah, and that was the moment where I was like, wow, this guy's actually really different. Like I've never been asked that. And he and in fact, the second part to this is he was genuinely interested.
He asked you questions
in my answer.
Totally, and he really wanted to know what you thought, and that's really beautiful.
Yeah. So
you were in his date box.
I was in his date box. Well, although actually, let's go down this rabbit hole. Yeah. Because he just got out of a serious relationship, and he was like, oh my God, amazing. She legally has to leave the country. Because I was only here on like a visa for like 2 months.
Oh my God, yeah.
So to him, actually, he's like, oh, I can just be myself.
Right.
Because even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter because she has to legally leave the country. So if this works out or not. So there was actually no pressure.
Right.
Going back to the job analogy, this wasn't a career interview. It was like maybe a job for the evening.
It was an internship,
And so in hindsight now, we look back and I ask him questions, but it was very tricky because I was like, I didn't want to sleep with him on the first date because I didn't want to be seen as a certain type of woman. I thought. Let me just preface. I was very young. I was 21 years old. So I didn't shave my legs because I was like, if I don't shave my legs, then I know I'm not going to sleep with him. And so I had to come up with a strategy because I didn't necessarily trust myself to be not swayed by his charisma.
Right. So did you sleep with him on the first date?
No, but he asked me to.
Yeah.
But so actually, where I'm going with this is you talk about fuckboys, which I freaking love. I actually have an amazing quote of yours.
Oh, amazing.
Once you trap a fuckboy, you have to take the beast home. And then you've got a wild animal in your house. And while you might feel like a momentary flash of pride, let me tell you, it will be short-lived. Because how you get them is how you lose them. Never forget that. If you have to wrangle and trick and manipulate a fuckboy into your home, that's exactly how he'll leave. Sneaking out the back door and leaving you bamboozled.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's like a lot of us go through a phase of wanting the validation of trying to change someone. Again, I mentioned this before, and it's like, why, like, you're not a mommy and you're not a therapist. So why are you trying to act like that with a fuckboy, And so many women get caught in this trap of like, they just feel like they're going to be the one to change him. And it's like, what, like when you do that, you're elevating this guy to a higher status than you in your own life, because you're saying like, I'm going to put all my energy into chasing this guy who doesn't want to be caught. Again, like, that's not romantic. That's like exhausting and toxic. And maturing is realizing like it's cool to have someone like you back, and it's cool to have someone who puts in effort, and you don't get a prize. Like if you finally trap a fuckboy into dating you, like there's no like gold medal at the end. It's just like, then you have like an anxious relationship that's built on manipulation, which is exhausting.
How do you even start to identify? Because I don't think necessarily everybody realizes they've done that.
I think it's like, if you feel like you are genuinely chasing a guy, or that you're trying to manipulate him, or that there's games, I don't think that any solid relationship is based on any of those things. Like, I don't think anyone is like, yeah, we like played games with each other and tortured each other for 6 months and then we started dating and then we had a great relationship. Like, that's just, of course there's exceptions to the rule, but like, are you the exception or are you going to be, the rule? And again, I think that there's better uses of women's time, honestly. I wish that someone had told me when I was like in my 20s, like, he doesn't like you, and like, stop trying to chase him, because you're literally just trying to validate yourself by doing that. You don't even like him that much. You just want the validation of being like, I got him.
Yeah, so true. So how do you know, I guess, the small differences? Because I've heard you talk about soft ghosting.
Yes. So soft ghosting is when a guy will just kind of like not text you back, but like reach out a little bit and just, maybe respond to your Instagram story, maybe send you a text here or there. So it's not a full ghost, but it's pretty much dead.
Versus a full ghost, which is
just like zero contact. Yeah. I think like you have to not be delusional. When a guy likes you, you can tell. Like, he's texting you, he's finding time to see you, he's planning in advance. Like, like, we've all had a guy like us. And conversely, when you are wondering, it usually means he doesn't like you. Like, if you are wondering, if you feel anxious when he's not texting you, I always think that that's a great measure of like how the strength of the connection is. Like, if you feel literally anxious or nauseous when they're not texting you, that's not a good sign. Like, every time I've started to date someone and they become my boyfriend, I've been like, I'm not worried that they're gonna text me, because I know they will. Because when someone likes you. Look, my point of view is that there really is no such thing as a bad texter. Like, if a guy likes you, he will find a time to text you, unless he's a heart surgeon performing like, a double tracheotomy, whatever, I don't know, like, or he's Barack Obama. Like, he's just not that busy. Like, he just isn't texting you.
And I bet you Barack is still texting Michelle.
That's true, actually. He is the busiest and most amazing in the world, and he's definitely still texting Michelle. So if he can do it, you're a random like dude who's like 24 working in sales can like pick up the phone.
That's so true. It's like, like we really do read into a lot. We dissect a lot. And I think ultimately, a lot of what you say is like, you'll know.
It's like, we kid ourselves, and I always remind people of like, think back to when you were in love or when you were in a great relationship. Like, does whatever dumb situationship BS you're going through now, does that compare to that? And the answer is no. And that's okay. But like, you sitting there being like, well, he texted me last Thursday, so maybe, and it's like, think back to when you were in love and how it felt so secure and how you felt so seen and so noticed. And it's like, that's what you deserve. So if it's less than that, don't worry about it. It's just not it.
Do you think women would still text guys even if they're not interested?
It's tricky, because sometimes women will string along a guy too, which is like, I mean, I do think women are perfect, but like, we're not, but I think, and I've done it too. Like, I am happy to say this because I've done it myself, where I'm like, I don't really like a guy that much, but per our conversation before, I think maybe it'll grow into me liking him more. Or maybe I just am like needing attention and validation, which like that's not nice to use someone for that, but we've all been there, and that's why it's so good to be self-aware and do the work. So you're like, is this just my ego enjoying being stroked and like having this guy take me out and like having someone to text? We've all been there. It's not like a war crime, but it's not the nicest thing to do. Again, I think you just have to be aware.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. It's like, again, I always want to make sure that I'm thinking through both sides of it. Because if we can help,
of course.
And so I just thought, I can't see, and I don't want to be gender specific again, but I can only speak for myself. I can't see my husband, when he was single, worrying about his self-esteem on like, if she doesn't text me, it means something about me, or if I need attention because I don't feel good about myself. So my husband wouldn't text someone if he wasn't interested.
Totally.
But I can see where us women, me, myself, if I don't feel good about myself and I get rejected time and time again from a date, from guys, I was bullied as a kid for my looks, so I did have low self-esteem, and someone shows me interest, even if I'm not interested in them, I can actually, and it's not right, and I'm glad that you also said that, but I can see that I would actually text them as a way to stroke my ego and to feel better about myself.
Totally. We've all been there. And look, again, I really don't think it's women's faults. Like from the time we're younger, we're told that like our image is our whole self-worth, and like we need to be pretty and we need to look a certain way to be valid, and like the attention of men is what matters most in the world. So it follows that a lot of us sometimes slip into that because we're like, I'm not feeling good about myself. It does feel good that this person is paying me attention. And that's why it's so important to work actively on your self-esteem and your confidence, so that you don't need to do that. And if you don't have any boys texting you, you're like, you know what, I don't have any guys to text, but I have a lot of other great stuff going on and I'm pretty great, and that's all I need.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked is I do have a lot of guy friends who are single and they've given up on dating too. And the thing that I hear is that, Lisa, we don't know when we're getting used or not.
Totally. You know what, I think we are really we're in the midst of a paradigm shift with dating. I think that social media, I think that apps have made it very stressful, very complicated. We're talking about this need for validation both ways, and it's just been amplified so much by social media and phones, right? Because when we have cell phones now, and basically what it means is like we have access to each other 24 hours a day. And that has led us to believe that we need to be validated 24 hours a day. Either with likes on Instagram or TikTok, whether it's a guy texting us, we think it should be like constant. And that's really not true for our human brains, I think. And so we're in a complicated time.
Yeah, because back in the day, if a guy really wanted to date you, he would either have to get a phone card, to go into a phone box to call you. You had to be home in the hope to talk to you. I mean, I'm a bit old now, so that's like. But now, I mean, I've heard you say like, you could go on a date and he may not even be interested, and you pick up your phone, but you've seen he's watched your stories.
Right.
And now you've made a story up in your head about him seeing your stories means that he's interested.
Right. But it doesn't. But it doesn't. Like, when a guy watches your Instagram story, like, he's probably on the toilet board. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, if you want to see a girl, like, you have to text her, and like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it means he has a phone and he has eyes. Like, that's all it means. And but it has caused a lot of confusion, because it is confusing. It's like, okay, why isn't he texting me back? But he watched my story. And then you're like, have a shred of hope or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything.
So would you then say it all depends on then the level of effort? Like, watching a story is super easy. You can do it on the toilet.
Yeah. I think like if someone likes you, they are trying to spend time with you. Like, I think if a guy likes you, he will be arranging a time to see you, and he will ask multiple times. And if he's just saying, like, doing the bare minimum, like responding to your story, or even if he's sending like a low ball text, like even if he's like, what's your plan this weekend? Like, that's not active, that's passive. That means like, if you're in my general vicinity when I'm drunk, maybe we'll hang out. Like, the text you want is, hey, what are your plans this weekend? I was thinking on Sunday we could go to that Thai restaurant that I mentioned to you, and then go see a movie. How's 4:00? Like, that's what everyone deserves. And if you think that what I just said is like asking for the moon and stars, if you're thinking like, oh my God, a guy would never do that today, you need to adjust your self-worth because that's what everyone deserves. Like, it's really not that big a deal. They're just, when you plan ahead, when a guy asks you out in advance and like plan something like that, he's saying like, I respect your time and I want to spend time with you.
Would you do that same text to a guy, or would you wait for him to do that for you?
If we were already dating, if we'd already gone on a bunch of dates, I would absolutely do that.
What about after the first date?
It depends. It really depends. I mean, I think that, again, I would see what he did, you know, not in a passive way, but I don't know, I would see, because it's like, to me, it's sexy when a guy takes the initiative and plans. And I have a very dominant personality, so, you know, I can sometimes bulldoze people, plans, everything. But I think in the early stages of dating, it should be the guy being like, no, yeah, I want to see you again.
How do you then communicate that? Because, again, I'm going to the things that everybody tells me behind the scenes, where women very much like you, I'm the same. I'm like, no, I want him to reach out. I want him, you know, like a powerful woman, but I still really want him to, in essence, take the lead. There are guys now that are very worried or petrified about taking the lead because they've actually been pushed down by dominant women.
Right.
And so now, as a dominant woman, you may see that as like, oh, he's not even bothering. But sometimes, actually, he's doing it because he's had a bad experience with another woman where she put him down for doing that.
Yeah. I think it's all about, like, matching where you are. Like, if you want a guy who takes the initiative and he's not, for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter, you guys probably aren't a match right now. And timing is important, right? So I think it's all like personal preference. But for me, after I go on a great first date, like, I want to text the next morning that's like, that was a great date, when are we doing it again? Like, I'm not going to send that text. So
yeah. I love that. And so what's the difference then between someone showing the interest, really, like, you know, hitting you up time and time again, and love bombing?
Love bombing, an example of love bombing would be like on the first date being like, my mom is gonna love you. Or like on the first date being like, well, when we get married, or like, oh my God, like, we are gonna go to Bali together, or something like that.
Didn't
like,
someone offer you to buy you a house or
someone
something?
was like, I'm gonna build you a house in Santa Barbara. And I was like, we haven't even met yet. We were texting. It was crazy. And I was like, this is love bombing. Like, and love bombing is hard because it makes you feel so good in the moment. You're like, they want to introduce me to their mom. Like, we're going to go to Bali together. And it's like, actions speak louder than words. So when you're being loved, it's not always a bad thing. It can just mean that someone is very excited, but actions speak louder than words. Because I get a lot of messages and emails and calls from people in my community being like, but he said we were going to meet his mom. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I can say I'm a unicorn. That doesn't mean I'm a unicorn. Like, actions speak louder than words. So it's like, is he following through with plans? Is he planning a second date? Is he listening to the responses? Like, actions always speak louder than words.
I love that. How much do you communicate ahead of time of things? So where I'm going with this question is, girl, the amount of people that talk to me about, Lisa, I don't know if I should pay for the first date.
A man should pay for the first date. If it's two cis het men, it's a man and a woman, cis hetero, then the man should be paying for the date.
And so here's the thing, I'm of the same thing. And one of my close friends, she's a badass girl. She owns her own business, super independent. She goes out on a date with this guy, and he's, they eat dinner, goes very well. The waiter brings the bill, and he basically sits there and looks at her, and she looks at him, and he looks at her again. She's like, no, I'm the type of woman where you pay. So she was very great communicating. And he literally was like, thank God. And she was surprised. And he goes, I just went on a date a week before. He went to pay because that's his belief as well. And the woman freaked the fuck out. And she was like, I can pay for my own bill. Now, here's the thing. If we can be so honest, it's really happening a lot these days. And because I'm not in the dating world, I can only speak for other people. But this is the thing that a lot of men are coming to me about and struggling with, because they're saying, I really want to pay for the first date. But I don't know now if a woman's going to hate me and shout at me or just be aggressive or think I'm like belittling them if I offer to pay.
Yeah, I think that the man should always offer. And I don't know, anecdotally on my radio show and the messages I get, it's more the other side of things where men are not offering to pay and they're just saying like Venmoing for half and all that sort of bad stuff. And look, my point of view is until there's equal opportunity for women, until women are paid the same amount as men, until we have fair maternity leave in this country, until we have rights to our own bodies in all 50 states, until, you know, there's free period products in school and free contraception for girls, and we are properly educated about our bodies, like, and until there is absolutely zero, you know, beauty standards that women feel they have to adhere to, I just am not interested. Like, I don't see the argument. Like, I think women are paid, I think it's 82 or 87 cents on the dollar. That's white women. Black women get paid 63 cents on the dollar of every man. So I just like, until everything is equal, I'm really not interested in having the conversation. And especially now with what's going on with women's reproductive rights, like if you can't pay, like, cause a lot of my followers are younger and like they'll say, oh yeah, we went, you know, to have one drink, and it's like, if you can't even afford one shitty vodka soda for this girl, then you probably can't afford the $50 for the Plan B or the flight that you'll need to go to a state where she can get a safe abortion if you guys have sex and you have an unwanted pregnancy. So I took it there. I went all the way. I don't care. You're a guy. You're paying on the first date.
Thank you. You just enlightened me on a lot of shit that I didn't even think through. So if we can take actually a lot of those things. Number one, guys want women to Venmo them?
Yeah, I have probably once a week on my radio show, or, you know, I get emails or DMs. A girl will tell me a story of like, she goes on a date with a guy. I literally had it this week on my radio show. A guy said, you want to come on this trip to Miami with me? Like, I got this Airbnb, come stay with me. Like, we'll go to dinner. She went, you know, didn't really have that good a time, didn't want to sleep with him. He took her to dinner and he was like, I got dinner. Like, oh my God, it made this big deal about it. She didn't sleep with him the whole weekend. And when they got back, he said, hey, I'm going to Venmo you for half of the Airbnb and dinner, okay? And the subtext is because you didn't sleep with me. And it's like, there is still that idea that that's how it works. And that's another reason why I just don't care. Like, all men should be paying.
Yeah. No, I agree. But so let me play devil's advocate again.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of guys that work for me. They're young. Mm-hmm. And they really want to find someone. And they're good guys. I've seen them. They offer me the seat. There's such a wonderful gentleman. How I see, again, I'm old, but he's gentleman. Offer me the seat. And they're so sweet, so gracious. And they're coming to me saying, Lisa, I want to pay. But I'm so worried that the woman gets insulted by me offering to pay.
I'm like, on the scale of things to be concerned about, guys being worried that they're going to offend women when they offer to pay for a date is like low on my scale of things to worry about. I'm like, you know what, you guys? You know what I worry about? Like, walking to my car safely. Like, us as women, we got a lot of worries. I think that guys can take this burden of like, should we not pay? Maybe I'll offend. It's like, it's gonna be just offer. If the you know, 1 out of 10 women gets offended, I think they can handle it. And to me, I feel very firmly on this issue.
Yeah. No, I, again, and totally agree. I'm just trying to find out where we get tripped up, right?
Yeah.
Like, where are the things where sometimes they don't even mean it, but
Totally.
But we do. We end up speaking completely different languages.
Of course.
And then when I think about people speaking 2 different languages, like, I'm such a like, let's come together, let's try and figure this out, you know?
Yeah.
And so hearing that, I think, hopefully my team's listening, right? But hopefully they can just adopt that, because I've never really known what to say to them, right? Because I'm like, well, yeah, you should pay. Like, I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
And don't let maybe a woman who has been scarred, maybe that, you know, like almost like that may come from a wound, it may come from somewhere else. Don't let them change who you are, right?
Exactly.
Like, if you're a gentleman, you want to take care of women, pay for women, however you want to phrase it. And it's hurting my soul that guys are now considering not doing it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, look, everyone has a million weird date stories, and there's always going to be like a mismatch of a person and whatever. And I I would just say to all guys out there, like, it's nice to offer. If you get an instance where a woman is really offended, you know, I think just be like, I'm sorry, I just wanted to take you out. Let's split it, no worries, or whatever, and move on, you know?
That's so true. It always seems very dramatic. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take a hard right, and now I want to talk about something that you call memorial service.
Yes,
So
holding a funeral. Yes, yes. So this is where maybe you've been seeing a guy casually, you know, this is not for a breakup. I want to be super clear. This is not for like a serious relationship or whatever. You've been seeing a guy casually, maybe a couple weeks, couple months, whatever, and he ghosts you, he dumps you, whatever, and you cannot get over it. I say to hold a funeral because we waste so much time on people that we're not even dating. We spend so much time tripping ourselves up, being so upset about, you know, some guy that we saw for 3 weeks who wasn't that great. He ghosts us, he dumps us. We're undone by it. And it's like, why waste precious days, weeks, months of our lives tripping up about it? So you hold a funeral. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself some flowers. You're going to get yourself a treat, maybe a great latte, a nice bottle of wine. You can even invite your friends over. You put on a sad song and you lay him to rest. You pretend that he died and you all lay him. You say, fly high, we'll miss you. Thank you for everything. See you on the other side, buddy. And you're only allowed to feel sad for that day. And then the next day you wake up and he's gone. It's just a little silly trick that I use. Sometimes I think, you know, we lose our goofiness as adults, and a lot of my tricks and tips in the book are a little bit goofy. They're a little bit mind trick because sometimes we need that to shake ourselves out of it and be like, okay, it's funny to be silly, and you know, I didn't really date this guy for that long. Why am I going to pine over him? You know?
What's the thing that you felt was the silliest but the most impactful?
Probably the funeral thing. I mean, I will literally put on Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley, light a candle and be like, damn, Chris, peace out, homie. Like, that was a great 2 weeks. Like, I'm not going to think about you anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's silly, but it works.
And when you wake up the next day, like, do you really not think about him? Or is
I'm pretty strict with my mind tricks. Yeah. I think it's like we control our brains, and sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but you can train your brain. It's like a muscle.
I love what you put in your book. So in exiting a relationship or someone that you've been dating, where you talk about your barometers, and you're like, we all think about like going on these trips and like, oh my God. And then you basically say like, no, who do you want to drive to CVS with?
Yeah, I think it's like so important. I mean, again, this happens a lot with future tripping where we'll be like, oh my God, like I'm imagining these amazing moments. And it's like, it's easy to have fun with someone when you're like at a theme park, like, you know, drinking wine. Like, obviously that's fun, but it's like, who do you have fun with sitting on the couch with? Who do you have fun with doing errands with? I think that that's such a great barometer for if you really like someone, because you have friends like where being with them, even doing the stupidest stuff, like going to CVS or like doing a thing at the Apple store, it's so fun with them. And that's how your partner should be. Like, you should literally find it so fun to do just mundane, everyday shit with them. Because at the end of the day, life is mainly about going to CVS, right? It's mainly about like returning something to the Apple store. It's like, you can't be on a trip to Bali every day. And so for me, I always know that I really like someone if I have a fun time in the car with them, just like driving somewhere.
I love that, because to your point, if you're looking for somebody to be with for the rest of your life, let's say that's why you're dating, because you want to be with somebody, you want to find a, you know, forever partner. I'm always thinking about what was that thing that you want to do, or that you still love in 10, 20 years, right?
Exactly.
And like you said, you can't go to Bali every week.
Yeah.
So who do you, in fact, like when you're vomiting,
yeah.
Right? Like, does he just like, all right, let me know when you're done? Or he's
Yeah.
like, hey, do you want me to hold your hair back?
Yeah. Yeah. You really know when you're like having a bad day or when you're sick or whatever. Like, I one time was in Tulum with a boyfriend, and he was an awful, awful, mean boyfriend. And I got wild food poisoning, and he just left me there. He just left me in the hotel room all day. I was like, can you please bring me a Gatorade? Like, find a Gatorade. And he did come back with a Gatorade, but like 8 hours later, he was like, oh yeah, I went to the cenotes and like I had a day. And I was like crying, like literally just like so sick. And I was like, this guy does not like me. And then I've also had boyfriends who are like, you know, I've been in my worst shape, like just crying or I don't know, having a meltdown, and they like think it's amazing and they're like rushing in to help me. And that's what you really want to look for.
Yeah. So if you find someone that rushes in to help you and stuff, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm so in love, how do you know where that fine line is? Like, hey, you're really in love, you want to spend time with them, right? You want to get to know them, you really want to bond with them, and then, or you have boyfriend disease.
Boyfriend sickness, yes. Okay, so boyfriend sickness is a disease that I discovered. I am sort of like an infectious disease doctor on the side.
I love how you even rank the symptoms, by the way, in your book.
Yeah, so I dabble in that on the side.
Really?
So like, you know, if you have like a 1 to 3 level boyfriend sickness, it's just mild. It's just like when you get a new boyfriend, you're obsessed with him. And like level 1 boyfriend sickness would be like you just bring him up any chance you get. So like you're out with your friends and you're like, oh my God, you guys, we should get the carrots. Chad loves carrots. Or you're like, oh my God, you watch that show? Chad and I love that show, or whatever. Like it's boyfriend sickness. It's fine. We've all done it. It's a beautiful thing.
It's like the sneeze.
It's the sneeze. It's so cute. Like whatever. But it can get to a point where it gets kind of serious, because it's like if you completely stop hanging out with your friends, you start changing your personality, you know, all of a sudden Chad doesn't like when you wear pink, and then all of a sudden you don't wear pink anymore, even though it was your favorite color, and your friends are like, wait a second, you love wearing pink, you love that pink dress, why are you changing yourself? And it's like, and I have had that serious of boyfriend sickness where I like literally changed my personality to try and keep this guy, and it's like you shouldn't be changing yourself to try and trap someone or keep them or whatever. So it can be really dangerous. And it's like, you know, I believe like even if it is the love of your life and whatever, you shouldn't abandon all of your friendships. Like you shouldn't stop hanging out with your friends and completely like leave them because you're like, oh, I found him, so like I'm done. Because at the end of the day, like I'm an optimist for sure, but you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. And like people get divorced, people break up, whatever, but your friends have been there with you through thick and thin, and you should want to keep them and hold on to them. So even if you are head over heels in love, that's fantastic. Don't forget about your friends.
Do you mind actually taking me through so people listening, they can really start to identify if they're starting to get very sick and not taking the medicine? Like for you, when you were changing yourself, I assume it starts slowly.
It starts slowly, and then all of a sudden you're like canceling plans with your friends, like just all the time.
Because they're getting mad? Are you hanging out with your friends?
Yeah, because, or you just like, you're worried that if you leave them alone, like you don't want to leave them alone. Like you think that you have to be around your boyfriend all the time, like to maintain the relationship, which is obviously like so toxic and unhealthy. You know, you don't like doing the same things that you did. Like for me, I stopped working out, and I like love working out because he was like, oh, like that's stupid, you don't need to do that. And I was like, but I love going to workout classes with my friends. Like that's, you know, and now I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? And I stopped like doing my like girls sushi nights with my friends because I was like, oh, he wants to do this, so we have to do that. And like, or he doesn't like when I wear my hair like this, so I'm gonna change it. And it's like, yes, of course, being in a relationship is about compromise, but I'm talking about like one-sided pulls where, you know, or a good way to know is like if your friends are like, hey, like, are you okay? We haven't seen you in a while, or like, we really miss you. Like, your friends have your best interest at heart. And sometimes when you're in deep, like you feel like your friends are attacking you, but always remember, like, your friends want the best for you. They've been your friends for a long time. They're not trying to like keep your boyfriend from you. They are just trying to check that you're okay.
In that moment, why do we perceive it as they're trying to hold me back from this relationship?
I don't know. I think it's like a really scary moment when you start to think that you start to question your friends' motives. It's like, why would your friends ever, or like your family, even sometimes it happens where your family's like, hey, like we haven't seen you in a while, like you feel like you're changing, like, and you're like, you just are jealous of my relationship. And it's like 9 times out of 10, they're not. They're your family, they're your friends. They want you to be happy and good. And I think it's just like defensiveness that comes out.
Yeah, like I think identifying, do they love me?
Right.
Do they care about me? What's their intention? Because if you start to think, well, their intention is to hold me back because they hate me and they want me to be miserable, okay, that's one thing. But if you start to piece apart, oh, okay, they're saying this because they love me. Okay, well, if they love me, why would they say this? Maybe there's something to it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you just have to, that's why, I think it's so important, like even from the beginning, just like always maintain your relationships with your friends and your family. Whatever is important to you, like keep that. It doesn't matter if you feel like, oh my God, finally I found him. That's great. But like, you don't have to give up your hobbies. You don't have to give up your friends. You don't have to give up doing what you love, because any person who's right for you is going to want you. Like, think about it that way. Like, anyone who loves you is going to want you to have those special friendships, relationships, hobbies, whatever, because they want you to be happy.
I love that. And so in your book, you actually break down like the different types of symptoms. So you've got 1 to 3 is your
mild, like you're just saying like, oh my God, Chad loves carrots, whatever. And then in the middle, you know, it's like more serious, like you're canceling on your friends all the time. You don't hang out anymore. And then in the really serious stages, it's like, you are literally like changing who you are because you think that that's what it takes to keep them.
Yeah, I've sadly been there.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have.
Yeah, and I think not beating ourselves up over having gone there is super important.
Yeah,
as well.
It's like, again, we live and we learn.
Yeah. So talk to me, live and learning. Talk to me about the heartbreak antidote.
So, you know, look, if someone could bottle a medicine for heartbreak, they'd be the richest person on the planet. Your first heartbreak is like by far the worst. It's so bad you think you're gonna die. You literally can't get out of bed. You feel physically sick. And it never gets like easier per se, but I think when you've been through one really bad breakup, you kind of do develop these antibodies because you're like, I feel really, really bad, but I've also felt like this before. You know, like I've also had this feeling before, and you kind of are like, wow, I remember this similar notion of thinking like, I'm never gonna find anyone else, and like, I'm never gonna be happy again, I'm never gonna laugh again. And it's like, and you did find someone else because you're already in your second breakup or your third or whatever. And it's like, that's beautiful. Like, that is really amazing. So
one of the biggest fallacies is that relationships shouldn't be work. Say what? We put time, effort, and hard work into growing our careers or our business, but love should just happen? After 20 years of being married, all starts with being willing to ask and answer hard questions. I have a free downloadable PDF for you for a happy, successful, lasting love. Click the link below for free access to the most important questions you must ask your partner PDF.
I don't think the goal of dating is to like never get your heart broken. Like, that's an unrealistic expectation. We're not put on earth to have like a perfect experience. And I mean, look, if you meet the love of your life when you're 15 and you marry him and you live both till 90 and like that's it, God bless, that is fucking beautiful. But most of us go through heartbreak a few times, and that's okay. Like, that's more than okay.
How have you not got hard, girl? Because like you even said earlier, you're an optimist, and I think it's so beautiful. What is it? Like, what is the things that make up the optimist in you, even when you've been on many dates and had your heart broken so many times?
I think that like, I love being in love, and to me, every time when I go through a new breakup, I'm like, obviously I'm sad, but I'm like, the shift is like, I'm so lucky that I got to spend time with that person. And just because a relationship ends, I don't believe it was a failure. That's like a big shift that I hope people take away from the book, is like, if you learned something and you were happy, like, that's a win. You know, a relationship is not a failure because it's over. It's just like a chapter in your life, and you were happy and you spent time with someone. So it's kind of like, I would rather have fallen in love and had heartbreak for many times than just like wait till I meet my person and like only fall in love once and never have heartbreak. Like, and maybe that's controversial, but like, I feel lucky that I've fallen in love several times and had to get over it, because it's like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, as I was thinking, I was like, wow, you love being in love more than you hate a heartbreak.
Totally. Yeah, it's like, that's exactly, to me, it's like far worth it. And it's, even when I'm sad, I'm kind of like, I always tell my community, I'm like, when you're really, really sad over a breakup, it's kind of a beautiful thing, because it's like, you are experiencing a depth of emotion, and like, you're only that sad because you were that happy. Like, if you were just like this your whole life, there's no good without bad. Like, every emotion has an opposite and equal emotion. So it's like, it's an honor to be able to feel that way. I know a lot of us out there are deep feelers, and it can be very intense. I feel very intensely, but it's like, I would take that over feeling numb any day.
Whew. Girl, oh my God, I literally could talk to you forever. Your book, The Shift, is chock-a-block, homie,
Yeah.
with so many wise, important tips. Where can people find you? Where can people find the book, The Shift?
I am at Tinx on all platforms. I have a radio show, It's Me Tinx Live, and a podcast, It's Me Tinx, and my book, The Shift, is out now.
Keep watching to learn how to make sure that you don't let your insecurities affect your dating or relationship life. Confidence is everything. It affects the way we perceive ourselves, how we interact with others, and definitely shapes our sex life. So how on earth, if we're single, are we able to gain the confidence in ourselves in order to then put ourselves out there, to then date and then be in a relationship and then get the confidence in the bedroom?
Okay, well, first, let's just start with being single. I think that a lot of people think of single as this stopover, that I'm just going to stay single, and when I'm single, I can't wait to be in a relationship. But I really would love to encourage people that when you're single, it is such an excellent time to really get to know yourself, get to know what you're into, you know, what kind of friends you like, work on yourself, work on your mental health. It's such a great time to go to therapy and think about, what do I actually want in a partner? What do I want my life to look like? You know, a lot of us just sort of desperately are swiping through apps and we're trying to meet somebody, but we're not doing the important work that will allow us to make the best decisions going forward. We're not going to pick always the best partners if we're just, you know, coming from desperation or coming from a place of lack or coming from a place of a deep insecurity that this person is going to complete me. I would just like to debunk that whole like you complete me thing. When we're looking for someone and we think this person's going to fill me up and complete me, it's essentially saying I'm a half a person and I'm looking for another half a person and we're going to become whole. But I think that that is such a faulty way of thinking, to think that we're some way broken and someone's going to fill us. So I think the more we can work on just becoming whole ourselves, we're more likely to attract a whole person. So that's important. Think about that. So the confidence, I think, you know, when I think about confidence, I think that so much of it comes from our own limiting beliefs, our negative self-talk about ourselves, which sometimes it's so, we don't even know that we're doing it. We believe it's just the universal belief that we are bad, we are wrong, we are stupid, we are unlovable. Let's say we got out of a really bad relationship and we have these limiting beliefs and negative self-talk that I am not lovable, this person broke up with me, maybe someone ghosted you. Maybe you had abuse. There was just a lot of things going on in your past relationships. I think it's really important to first heal and do the work and think about what was it in this relationship that didn't work for me? What did it leave me feeling about myself? And what are the lessons I can learn? Because sometimes we're leaving an unhealthy relationship and we think, I can't bear to be alone with myself. I'm just going to grab the next person that's interested in me. And then we continue to repeat these patterns of dating people who are unavailable and not right for us. Everyone can kind of relate to, you know, oh, I always date the bad boy or I always date the bad girl. And why does this keep happening to me? Well, it's happening to you because you are making choices that are not coming from a place of a deeper knowing and doing that work. So when I say do the work, I'm a huge fan of therapy because that's really going to help you kind of break down the patterns and knowing yourself. I think it's okay to kind of think about, you know, what did I do wrong or what would I like to learn from these relationships? It's not that you are a bad person. You know, sometimes we take these beliefs like I'm bad and I'm not lovable. It just means you were with somebody maybe that wasn't the right fit for you. Maybe there was some, you know, choices you made along the way. There's just a lot of great information that we can learn. So I always recommend take some time, learn about yourself before you go back out there and date.
I'm so glad you said that. And there was one thing that I didn't want to interrupt you, but so far, because this is the problem that I worry about is if you're with somebody who, let's say, cheats on you, betrays you, there is a part, at least for me, there would be a part that would absolutely, my confidence would get knocked because I would think it was about me. I would, even if I can say, well, he doesn't know what he has, right? Like we can all kind of try and brush it off. But ultimately, I think deep down, I would worry, is this a reflection of me? Is this a reflection, am I pretty enough? Is my body good enough? How do we start to actually then unwind? What would you actually recommend if somebody is in a situation where they don't feel good enough, then they don't want to look in the mirror? Right? Because they don't have confidence in their own body.
We could talk about body confidence for a minute, but first, I mean, I just want to go back to the toxic relationship. That is a pattern. It's just important to go to therapy, understand the pattern. Sometimes it comes from our childhood. It comes from our parents. It comes from, you know, it's something like sometimes we're attracted to partners that are, mimic something that we saw in childhood. It feels safe and comfortable, but it doesn't mean that those are the kind of people that you need to continue to choose going forward. So body confidence is a whole nother thing. So here's the thing. There's a lot of talk about body love. You need to love yourself. I just like to get people to like body acceptance or body neutrality. It's okay if you're neutral about your body, but if you're walking around in a body that all day long you're thinking, I hate my body, I don't like the way my thighs look, I don't like my breasts, it's going to be really hard to not only attract a partner that is going to also feel good about your body if you're walking around hating on your body, but it's going to be really hard to step into your own sexuality, to feel sexual, to feel like you are deserving of pleasure, to feel that you are somebody that that even knows how to sink into your body and ask for what you want. So it starts with, I have a few, tips for people who are suffering around this, because we all do. We all go through phases of our lifetimes of feeling not great about our bodies. So remembering that if this is you and this resonates, there's one thing, and that is the exposure exercise, is what we call it. It's sort of the mirror exercise. And this is a practice of taking off your clothes, being in your room alone, no one has to be around, and you actually are looking at your body naked. You're saying that people don't want to look in the mirror. I'm asking you to look in the mirror at your body and say, what is it that you like about your body? It could be, I love my feet. My feet allow me to walk up these stairs. My feet allow me to move across the city. My hands, I have great ears. I love these earrings. We can all find things on our bodies that we like. So that is one of the first practices. And some people are like, oh God, I couldn't do that. You don't have to strip down naked the first time. You could even just start by looking into your own eyes, looking into your face. We often don't do that. We don't make eye contact with others, and we don't make eye contact with ourselves. And so I encourage that.
I love that you actually even broke that down even further, because that was going to be my follow-up question, because sometimes people just like, I don't even have the confidence to undress, let alone undress and then look at myself in the mirror. So having that kind of stepping stone is great.
Yeah.
And then just even thinking beyond that, like what you were insinuating, which is, if you're not, in fact, I actually have a quote, this hit the nail on the head. Hands down, men and women say confidence is the sexiest trait in and out of the bedroom. Amazing. So now, if we want to be attractive to other people, not attracted, but attractive to other people, making sure that you feel good about your body when you're walking into the bedroom is so important. Because I even remember when I first started having sex with Tom, I was like, lights off, please. Like as low lights as possible. And then realizing, wow, confidence in and of itself is such an attractive trait to somebody that even if you don't feel confident, if you can learn to appear confident so that you start to feel it, it then still has the same knock-on effect.
It does have the same effect. It can have the same effect if you think, this is what confidence looks like, kind of like the fake it till you make it thing. But I do think that can absolutely work. But if you think about it, if you are walking around and you are not feeling good in your body and you're hating on your body, because I hear from so many women who think, I'm never in the mood for sex, or my partner doesn't know what I want in the bedroom. It's like, but if you are constantly like bashing yourself and you have this negative tape going all the time, it's not like you're going to be able to spring into action when you're supposed to be, having sex and being in a sexual moment. So I think and that's another thing. If you have the lights out, right? That whole lights out in the bedroom is that's so common all the time.
With women though, right?
Women. But some men too. I hear it from men. I hear from all people that we want the lights out. And to me, that's a sign. So if you're thinking, I'm not sure how confident I am, if you only want the lights out and you're doing the side step backwards to the people, I always hear from my friends, I remember saying that they'd have sex with somebody. And they're like, then they get out of bed and they walk backwards into the bathroom after sex because they don't want anyone looking at their bum. I know. So that's why this movement exercise or looking in the mirror or moving your body, doing dance, doing anything to make you feel more connected to your pelvic floor, especially as women, we have like these S curves in our body. There's like the pole dancing classes, which I used to think those were kind of silly because why would I want to do a striptease for my partner? How is that helping me? But it's actually all about women getting confident in their own bodies. So finding a dance class near you, something that's like sensual dance and just moving your body, even if it's just exercise or swimming or running, like being comfortable, being embodied and in your body. So that is just a really important, like moving it and feeling safe. And then also with these partners, feeling comfortable, like the confidence comes also from from our bodies comes from communication and talking to our partners about what we actually need and what feels good to us.
Well, there's actually one thing that you just said that I didn't want to interrupt you, but it was amazing. I felt that when I started to date Tom and I started to sleep with him, all my insecurities, right? Like you said, everyone has parts of their body that's insecure. I actually thought I've got the best strategy. I'm going to tell him that I know that they exist. That way he just knows and I don't have to worry about it. Of course, that was the terrible strategy now in hindsight. But I really thought that if I tell him, babe, I know I've got a rib popping out. Yeah, I know this ugly rib. Like, I actually thought if I made him aware that I knew it was ugly, that he then would be okay with it. But what I was doing is just showing him more and more my insecurity. And at the time, I thought it was a great strategy because I thought it relieves me from the worry that, oh my God, is he going to notice that I have a sticking out rib? Right? Because the concern. And so I thought, get confident, Lisa. The confidence means just say it. Well, of course, now looking back, that wasn't the right strategy. The right strategy would have been, you need to get confident in that rib before you even sleep with someone or before you even think about it. Get confident within yourself. And then why do I have to mention it? If he thinks that this is something bad on me, then that's on him and then he's not the right partner. But that comes with freaking confidence, right? That comes with having to, over time, build that up. And I remember thinking, in the flip side, would I want him to keep coming to me, saying to me all the time, babe, I know that this isn't good. And babe, I know this part of me isn't great. And I know that this bit's getting a bit flabby. And I know that, no, that wouldn't be attractive. Like, I would actually rather him fake, like, hell yeah. Like, I would be attracted to him. And I think then the sexual tension would then give him the confidence. But by pointing it out, it's not an attractive thing.
No, it's not as attractive. It's really not. I mean, we always say confidence is the most sexiest thing in the bedroom or in a relationship, and it really is. And so I think that that's such an important point you're making, though, because we all have things about ourselves that that aren't our favorite parts. But why don't we lead with what we do like? Why don't we lead with parts of our body that, you don't, and also I want to say, you don't have to get completely naked in the bedroom. I always encourage this with women, especially if there's like a, something that you feel sexy in. I mean, there's all this lingerie, maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't, but maybe you love, shirts with ties in them. You love a tie around your neck, or you love an off-the-shoulder blouse, or you love wearing like little skirts or shorts. You can leave your clothes out. If that's gonna allow you to move and be truly embodied with a partner, like, do you. That is the most confident thing in the world when you show up as someone who knows what she wants. So when we're talking about that, it's like a lot of women too are also focused on the external part of sex, which is how they look. And we're in our heads the whole time. But when we're in our heads worrying about sex the whole time, first of all, the blood is washing away from our genitals and it's going to our head. And so we're not turned on, we're not aroused.
That's so true.
Yeah, but when we are really, and I'm going to say it again, embodied, which means like you are in your body, and you understand your own pleasure, what feels good. Now, this takes from work on your own, whether it's masturbation, it's communication with your partner outside the bedroom about what feels good. When you are truly having more pleasure, more orgasms, more arousal, and you deeply understand your arousal and your turn-ons, it sort of trumps everything else. You will no longer be focused on your little ribs, your thighs, or whatever it is that's bothering you. You will be connected. You will be, aroused and turned on and ready to have sex.
And I love that, but the funny thing is it feels like a chicken and the egg, right? Like, which one comes first? It's like, well, the more you're having great sex, the more you're orgasming, the more you're masturbating, the better and more confident you will feel. But if you don't have the confidence to allow yourself to orgasm, to masturbate, then it doesn't have the knock-on effect.
That's exactly it. And so that's why we have to, and also I want people to know that confidence is not a destination.
Yeah.
Confidence is a journey, and it is a lifetime journey. It is something that some days you're feeling really confident, some days you're not. And I would just love to normalize that process. And what really helps me and others that I advise is like keeping affirmations that are, if you have a negative self-tape that's, I'm fat, I'm not lovable, no one's gonna like me, I hate my thighs, I have weird vulva, my labias are strange. You have got to, it is imperative that you have the flip side of that thought. I like my body gets me from point A to B. I am somebody who's available and responsible for my own pleasure. I deserve, I deserve to feel good. And all the ways that you you just have to find your flip side of that, your affirmations, your, and it helps to have them in your phone or to write them out. It is a very powerful practice, and it is a process and it is practice. But it is not a place that you arrive and you are always confident, because also our body is always changing. Our body changes from year to year, decade to decade, sometimes month to month. And if we are reliant on feeling 100% confident every time we have sex, most of us would just be celibate for the rest of our lives. So a lot of that comes from finding partners that we trust and that we feel, they make us feel like the best version of ourselves. Especially if you've been with people who don't make you feel that way, you might have a hard time believing that those people actually exist, but I promise you they do. Once you've identified that negative pattern you have of dating people who aren't available, who make you feel bad, it will no longer be interesting to you to date those people, but you'll start to feel like how good it feels to be with a person who accepts all of you.
I love that. There's two things there that's so freaking powerful. First of all, you saying that confidence isn't the final destination. Girl, I'm so freaking with you. I think that we've got so caught up in this is what I need. But the way that I actually like to say it is it's the tool you use to get to what you actually want. So people think what I actually want is confidence, but that's not true. What you actually want is confidence to do what with? To feel good in the bedroom, to be sexually open. Okay, then that's your goal. The goal isn't the confidence in and of itself. So now, instead of getting ourselves all tied up in how do I get to the actual confidence, I'd like to kind of shed all that and say, okay, how do I now feel good with my partner naked? It's a totally different framing, right? Because now it's not a, do I have confidence, yes or no? It's a, okay, I know what I'm trying to get to. Now, Emily's just very beautifully articulated that I can look in myself in the mirror first. I don't have to get undressed, and then I can take my shirt off, right? Then it becomes very tactical. Then it becomes, don't get in your own head about if you have the confidence or not. Just take the steps and then go, now I am working towards, and you even said it's the journey, I'm now working towards getting comfortable with my partner. I freaking love that. So the second thing I actually remember you saying is about how your body changes.
Yes.
I think that is so important. And the reason why I think it's so important is because for me, I plan to be with my husband for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
My body is going to change. I was 21 when I met him. So do I think I'm going to have the same tight ass when I first met him to when I'm married and in my 80s? Of course not. So now I actually do the internal work in my 40s. I'm in early 40s. I do the work now, so that when I'm 80, I don't feel bad about myself because I know it's coming. And instead of it like blindsiding me when I get to 80, that all of a sudden my boobs are hitting my feet, it's like I've already done the internal work, so that I can't wait to get there.
Right.
And the biggest thing that I do with that, and I'm still on my journey, but the thing that I do was a friend called Lillian Garcia told me that she went on stage. She did this big announcement. She was like hosting WWE and it was her birthday, and she lied about how old she was. And somebody pulled her aside and said, you either have a choice, get old or die. And if you're getting older, isn't that better than dying? So why not celebrate it? And that changed everything for me. I was like, yes, now if I get the sunspots, if I get the wrinkles, right? Like if I get all the things where I'm like, oh, my thighs aren't as, how they used to be in my 20s. I just say, but Lisa, would you rather that or would you rather be buried in the ground?
Exactly.
And it just makes it me allowed to settle into my body changing, my body growing, and the beauty that comes with the age.
There's so much beauty and wisdom that comes with aging. And I think it's really hard with women too, because we sort of glorify like the dad bod or the silver fox. But for women, we're getting older, and it's like, it's not as glorified. Like I wish women were like, oh, how great that she's getting round in the middle and the hormones. We don't talk about any of that. And it's really more of a struggle. And so it's more about how you show up for yourself is how you're going to show up for everyone else. And if you feel that this is kind of just a lot, I mean, maybe hearing like exposure exercise and just, fake it till you make it, I understand that. And also in thinking about the conditions, do you realize that you are deserving of sexual pleasure? That you would love to have an intimate relationship, that you deserve to feel good in your body, that exploring your sexual health is a lifelong journey and it's crucial for your overall health and wellness.
So if everything you just said, do you want to live a life of pleasure? Do you want to be connecting with your partner until your dying day? Do you want to feel good about yourself? Do you want to be sexually satisfied? If your answer is yes, now at least they know what the goal is and what they're trying to get to. And now when you suggest, guys, I know it's going to be hard, but look in the mirror and take your shirt off, that moment where people may be resistant, they can come back to the fact that they answered the question, that they do want it.
Exactly, Lisa. I hope that everyone listening wants it. I hope that you feel that pleasure is your birthright and you all deserve to have pleasure. And if the thing that's keeping you from that, for so many of us, it's our own limiting beliefs. It's the negative self-talk. And I deal with that still all the time. I mean, I have it in my body or in other places, and I just have to stop. I mean, it really is a practice of saying, okay, I have all these things going, all these things in my life. I have great friends, I have a lot of love, and my body's amazing and it can do all of these things. And I am my own worst critic. We are our own worst enemies. If we can also remember that, it's just really important to take a step back, that your thoughts are not the truth. And your thoughts are actually something that is keeping you from living the life that you want and finding the partners you want. And confidence in the bedroom or confidence in the boardroom really just starts with you and realizing that again, that you deserve it, and then you deserve to take the time to feel good, and and surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good. And the other thing I want to say about this too is, if you are doing things, if you're following people on social media that make you feel bad, unfollow those people. Find people who are more like you. Find bodies that represent your body type. Surround yourself with sex positive messages and body positive messages. It's unrealistic standards that we see. Everyone's airbrushed. There's so many great accounts that sort of show you that now in social media. They're like, this is what happened. This is how I really look. This is how I'm standing. I mean, we have to remember that we are holding ourselves up to the unrealistic expectations we have of ourselves, but also in society that isn't even real. And so, where is it coming from? It could be that for some people, they had a partner, maybe once they had a partner who shamed them, who said, oh, I don't love your breasts, or this thing's out of place. Your left breast's bigger than your right. And we carry that on for a lifetime. I have people who call into my show and they're like, 20 years ago, a woman said something about my penis, and now I can't, I don't even know how I'm ever going to find someone. Wow. And just, again, that was somebody else's belief. It's not the truth. And what do you want to believe? Because if you're thinking that we get to program our own thoughts, we are in charge, let's program it with the good ones. Let's program with the thoughts and the beliefs that serve us, and I think just recognizing that that's what it is your very first step. That, oh, maybe it's not true. Maybe I am lovable. Maybe I can have incredible sex at any size. With anything in my body, we are all capable of. We all have a mind. Our brain's the largest sexual organ. But if it's filled with, crap that's preventing us from having sex, it's not going to work. So once we can release those messages and go towards our sensuality and desire, we're better off, Lisa.
I love that, girl. And I think you even said it, surrounding yourself with body positive people who are open also to talk about sex. Because I grew up in a house, no one spoke about sex, ever. My mum never walked around naked. It was always from as early as I can remember, even boobs were always covered up. And so I remember the very first time I went to one of those spa places, I was something like 16. And I remember walking in and everyone was nude. And I was so ashamed. I was embarrassed. I was looking down, putting my hand. I was I can't look at the boobs. But it all came from the way that I was brought up. That bodies are to be hidden. That bodies are not shameful, but actually, yeah, that probably was that internal interpretation that I got. So it took me a long time to be okay with it. And here's the thing, have a friend like you, girl. You just say stuff that is so oh, I just listened to your show, but you are so open, so honest, so shameful or judgmental about the subjects, that even just being amazing friends with you has allowed me to lean into it more. And having people around you that can talk about it with no shame, that can talk about it with empowerment, is beautiful. And I think that, do you remember Sex and the City?
Yes, of course.
Right? The reason why I think that show did so freaking well is because women are now, we're normalizing the discussions that we've been told are supposed to be shameful, that you're not supposed to talk about. And that was the first show that said, no, you should be talking about this. Girlfriends do talk about this. And in talking about it, it's knowledge, it's removing the shame, it's removing the embarrassment, it's removing the judgment. And so being around someone like you who can talk openly is beautiful. And that's why I love having you on the show so much, because I just want to keep talking about it to normalize it.
Exactly. Once we start to talk about it, the more people that you hear talking about it, it definitely feels more comfortable talking to your friends, talking to your kids. I mean, it's important to talk to everybody about it. Sex. I mean, it's really, thank you. We shouldn't have so much shame, Lisa, at all.
So, okay, now I want to go back to, there was actually one thing that you said earlier that I didn't even interrupt you, but talking about the confidence, so like having it within yourself and with a partner, but putting yourself out there. Going on your first date, people want to be confident. People want to show up as their true selves, and maybe they do. But once it starts to get sexual, let's say you've even been faking the confidence to get on that first date, right? You want to go on this first date, you really like the person, you hear that confidence is sexy, they've just watched this episode, so they're like, right, I'm going to go in there really confident. Even if I have to fake it a bit, even if I'm not quite sure of myself, I understand it, so I'm going to go in. At what point do you say now you're kind of faking it to a partner and you're not showing your true self? And how do you stay confident and at the same time show your vulnerability that sometimes you're not always confident?
I guess it's sort of nuanced, because if you're showing up as confident, like how do you define, like when you're saying you show up as confident, it's the way that you're walking, you're coming in, you're talking about things that you love about your life, things that are great. They often say that on our first few dates, we show up, our representative shows up.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah, we're showing up as our representative,
Yes.
and we are not showing our vulnerabilities. We're not talking about the shit day we had. We're not talking about all the things that have gone wrong. We're like, here's all the things going right. And hopefully sooner than later, maybe it's the third date, maybe it's, these days I'm just so open with everyone, and I'm like, well, you really want to know what's going on? I'm so open about my vulnerabilities, because I've found the more that I talk about it, that it sort of takes the charge out of it. It levels the playing field, so people are like, oh, I really see who you are, and then other people feel safe opening up as well. So if I'm on a date and I say, yeah, things are great with work, but lately I've been struggling trying to figure out, after this pandemic, if I want, what kind of relationship I want. I haven't really been sure. Up until now, I've been kind of just dating a bunch of people, but now I'm actually thinking that I would like to, get more serious with somebody, or whatever your thing is. I think telling people the truth about where you're at is also really sexy. Is also like, if you feel that I've just shown up in this really superficial place, but the problem is, Lisa, so many people don't know that they're even doing it. Like, they don't even think it's okay. Well, I think
how do you actually then break that habit?
Okay, so I've done so much work on myself and with others that I just can tell. I'm like, I've been out with this person 4 times, and they've never expressed any concern about anything. Everything in their life is perfect. There's nothing wrong. And I happen to know the human condition, and everybody's going to suffer in some way. There's got to be some things that we're all concerned about. It doesn't have to be like, I don't need you to break down and cry right now. I don't need you to tell me about these deep, dark secrets of your family. But like, has everything really been perfect? Even if your mindset is great. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I want to know that you're real. Something, maybe you got a parking ticket today and it sucked. Like, I'm not saying you have to talk about your childhood trauma, but I just don't believe that everything is perfect for everybody all the time. In fact, I know it's not. And I get that a lot of us are conditioned to sort of always show the best part of yourself. And that's how we were raised in our homes. We were told that don't talk about anything negative. And I just think that the world really it's sort of changing right now, especially with social media and people being really real and honest about their struggles. But I've just come to expect that with people. So I think I try to share something. Hopefully they share something. And to me, that is humanity. That's knowing that you're sitting across from a real person. But that's a practice, I think, with friends, with your family, with someone you're dating. So I think that's how you know, if you feel like, do I really know this person? Because let me tell you, if you think this person's your everything and they're perfect and clearly we're getting married and they check off every box on my list, it's like, it's just not reality that someone's going to be perfect. I think you have to strike perfection. I'm trying to find the perfect partner from your language, because that person doesn't exist. So you often say, you marry someone or you commit to somebody, and you have to understand, like, sometimes people say you're choosing somebody whose difficulties you can work with, whose challenges you can work with. So I just think that the sooner you can get to the truth of that, who that person is, the better.
I love that answer, because that is such a like a self-assessment, right? That's okay, what do I want from someone? I want someone to be super real with me. And then after X amount of dates, am I sensing that? Are they not? I love that. And then also one other thing as you were talking is the jealousy angle. Like there was a part, especially before I had built the confidence within me, to think about all the women Tom slept with before me. And am I going to measure up? And am I going to be as good? And then like that stress and, you know, everything. So again, like the confidence part is such a strong thing when it comes to every aspect.
I love that you brought up confidence in the bedroom. It has to do with partners. I get this all the time in my show too. People are so worried that they are not as they're not as experienced as their partner, so that means they're going to be a terrible lover. That means they constantly thinking all the people their partner slept with. They have the conversation, which I say never have this conversation, the body count conversation, or it used to just be how many people you've slept with.
Never have the discussion at all?
Do not ever have the discussion. Ever. People who have it in their 20s, hopefully they're not having it all the time. Sometimes you lose count. But still, you should never have this conversation because we are setting ourselves up for failure. And so my thing is that, like, because you're thinking, oh, they've slept with too many people, so they're really, you know, they're slutty. Well, usually women get judged harsher than men.
Yes.
But they're super slutty, or they have more experience than I do. Oh, they haven't had enough, so that means they're not going to be able to bring it in the bedroom. But you can't judge how good someone's going to be in the bedroom by how many people they've slept with. You know, I've eaten a lot of meals, and that does not make me a chef. Like, I'm not a chef by any way. Really?
I love you so much. Oh my God. So why do we think it matters? Is it out of almost comparison?
It's comparison.
Yeah.
And comparison is what, the thief of joy? It really is. I mean, comparison is a thief of joy. And this is just a way that you know you're going to compare when you get that information. So if I think that we just have to remember that to kind of finish the point here is that just because someone's had a lot of partners, because I think that there's a lot of people listening and watching this are going, yeah, I've been worried about that forever, because I probably get asked this question every week and several times, that every time you're with a new partner, you have the opportunity to become a great lover, because all you have to do is pay attention, get curious, slow down. Oh, I see that, you know, this she's reacting to my kisses on her neck, or he looks like he's moving towards me, not away from me. So all the information we need with a new sexual partner is right there in the moment. It's not about, you know, the experience of having all these partners that's going to dictate your ability to have a successful sexual relationship with someone.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I hear a lot in relationships is, you know, the ex. It's always, you know, usually the jealousy about the ex.
Talking about the ex. The ex, listen, they're the ex for a reason. They're not with their ex. And I mean, think about it. Like, again, to use a meal example, I've had some great meals, but like every time I go out and I have a steak, I'm not like, oh, I really wish this was that steak I had 2 years ago. It was medium rare. This one's just medium well. I mean, we just don't do that. And I think that we think, since sex is not talked about enough, we put it on a pedestal for even our partners who might not even they're not even thinking that way. So blow their mind by being by being present. Blow their mind by being, you know, by being attentive, by being open, and by being confident in your own body, by doing your own work. And so if you won't do the exposure exercise, or you don't even want to look at the mirror, then at least become your greatest lover first. Understand your body. What feels good to you? What turns you on? What are your desires? What are your fantasies? What are your deal breakers? Because instead of going out with someone thinking, you know, do they like me? Are they going to like me? How about, do you like them? Like, I'd like to reverse that right now, because we often think, like, well, I don't know if they like me. Are they going to call me? But did you like them? Did you actually like them? Was it a good sexual experience? Was it a good dinner that you had with them? A good date? And again, that goes back to our own insecurities. I want to be liked. And we forget, do I actually like this person?
Oh my God, I love that you said that, because it wasn't until I met Tom that I was like, oh, yeah, I can be pleasured. You know, with my ex-boyfriends, it was always, you know, oh my God, are they satisfied? Are they satisfied?
Okay.
I never asked myself if I was satisfied until I met Tom, and he asked me. And I'm like, isn't it crazy that he asked me before I asked myself?
This is why you're with him for 20 years. That's true. It's very rare. I mean, this is what I encourage all the time, is that women, I'm going to say women, it is true, we are often raised that sex is performative. and that we are supposed to perform to please our partners. It's all about what our partner wants, and if they felt good and our partners had pleasure, then it was a good sex session because I pleased them, and that's what we think experience means. I know how to please a partner. But the truth is, it's about, do we know ourselves? So if you take anything from this, like the confidence is going to come from knowing yourself. What do you want? What feels good to you? And if you don't know, that's fine too. You could even tell your partner, you know, I'm on a journey right now trying to figure out my own body. I feel for many years I was all about pleasing my partner, but do you want to learn with me? Should we do some mutual pleasure sessions? Should we have a night that's about my pleasure, a night that's about your pleasure? And I just think being really honest about where you're at is, because I find that the partners that you actually want to be with, they want to please you. They're like a Tom Bilyeu. They're going to say, what feels good to you? And I get it. I had people ask me that, and I would say, before I did this work, everything feels good. I know everything you're doing is great, because I didn't know first of all, I didn't know the answer of I never thought about what felt good to me. Didn't know what to say, and I actually didn't think they wanted to know. I didn't think it was okay. I just, for so many reasons, I just said everything is good, and also I didn't know what to suggest otherwise. Because even if it didn't feel good, I didn't know to say, oh, actually, I like a little softer touch.
Right.
I want you to slow down a bit. Let's go back to the kissing. That felt really good. I didn't even think it was okay. I mean, I'm confident because I know myself now. And isn't that what confidence is about?
It is so true. And then the next step, even when you're knowing, is to be able to then tell them. Because as you were talking, I was like remembering how, like, when I was first with Tom, I was too embarrassed to just tell him, even though he was super open. And so I was like, maybe if my noises give him a hint. But it's like, why am I hinting? Like, now I look back and I'm like, I didn't have the confidence to just sit with him or let him know, hey, I love this. And so, you know, being like, okay, well, if I'm silent, maybe he gets the point that this isn't interesting. And then maybe if I just make a lot of noise when he does one thing, then hopefully he gets the hint that I'm liking it.
Well, that's actually really great. I mean, that's actually what I advise people all the time. If you want to start with making noises.
Yeah.
Start breathing. If your breath quickens, I mean, here's a way to know if your partner's turned on. Is her breath quickening? You know, is her face flushing? Is she moving towards you or is she moving away from you? I mean, there's all these, you know, a lot of what we say is nonverbal. So that's part of it. So you were on the right track.
Good.
But the confidence also comes, well, clearly you're doing a lot right with him here. But the confidence also comes from the ability to talk about it outside the bedroom.
Right.
Not have these conversations in the moment, because that can be hard too. And just saying, this is really hard for me. I don't often talk about these things. But I just know that it's going to be, you know, how we're really going to connect and be the best lovers to each other. So let's talk about our turn-ons. Let's talk about what feels good. And then it becomes it becomes something that you're sharing with your partner. Like, you're both deeply invested in having a healthy sex life. When you're with partners that you think don't care or don't know, or you can't have these conversations, then you are going to be, it's going to be really hard to build that confidence if you don't know what your partner's thinking and you don't know your own body. It's a lot harder. Find the partners that are invested in pleasure, that have a growth mindset around sex and pleasure. Those are the ones you want to be with.
And how do you, like, in certain moments, because again, I'm just projecting my own sexual experience, that you don't think it's about you? Like, there are certain times when you're with someone where you're like, oh my God, you know, like, they know me, or, you know, you've been with them for a while, but like something isn't just quite right. Like, at least for me, I go to blaming myself first. For instance, your guy can't get hard.
Oh,
It's
thank
all
you.
me.
Let's go there.
It's me. I can't.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, Lisa. He can't get hard. She can't have an orgasm. It's all my fault. It's so not true. And I just want you to know that your partner's ability to be aroused really has very little to do with you as a lover, and it could do with testosterone, hormones, stress. Stress is the biggest killer of our sex drive. The number one. If you have any stress in your life, it's going to impact your ability to, you know, stay hard, get hard. I mean, I have a friend who was married for 20 years, and for the first time, her husband wasn't able to stay hard. And she called me, and she's like, what's going on? Is he having an affair? I'm like, he's in his 40s now. Like, loss of testosterone happens to everyone. She was just like shocked because we take the blame. And it's just, again, it comes from talking about sex more, having accurate sex information, and asking our partner, simply saying, what do you think is going on there? Like, I noticed that you weren't as hard as usual. You didn't keep your erection. Is there anything, I'm so here for you. I just want to know, what do you think is going on? And then see what they have to say.
And do you think that if you can't have that conversation, then maybe your relationship isn't what it needs to be in the first place?
Yes. Well, this is not going to be it. Most people are not having these conversations. I'm fully aware. But I do know that couples who have talk about their sex life consistently and in a healthy way are more likely to have satisfying sex, their relationships last longer, and there's more pleasure all around. But I know this is not, I've been working on this a long time. I hope that people walk away from this thinking, oh yeah, I realize that I've never talked about this. And it might be, again, to give you confidence, it's okay to say to your partner, this is really hard for me too. I realize we've never talked about this. But I really think that we could be the best lovers to each other if we could learn to get over our shame, because usually it's shame and it's fear of rejection, or it's just fear all around, which is false evidence appearing real. Remember that. And once you remember that, you're like, okay, I'm going to get through this because it's so worth it. Think of everything else we do in our lives that we get past fear, right? Public speaking or taking a new job or all the things we do. But let's get over the fear in our sex life and the fear of even having conversations about our sex life. Because your partner not orgasming doesn't mean that she didn't. I'm talking about a lot of heterosexual relationships right now. But
yeah, sure.
If your partner can't have an orgasm, I guarantee you it's not because anything's wrong with your penis. Maybe she's never had one. Maybe she doesn't know her own body. There's just so many things. So I think before we go inward and start to beat ourselves up, just have a conversation. Have a healthy conversation, and remember to be open and to be curious and to be non-judgmental and to be an active listener. That's what's really important.
I love that so much. And that was one thing actually that I remind myself, because if you've been in a relationship, so I'm hoping that this episode ends up really impacting people in different areas of their lives, like depending on if they're just starting to date or if they've been in a relationship for a long time. And then I was starting to think for myself that when you get in a relationship for a long time, you do end up getting comfortable. And then if things change, like you said with your caller, you go into panic mode because you think you know everything, right? And so because you're my good friend and because I'm very comfortable talking about sex, and I've been with Tom for a long time, got comfortable talking to him, I was able to turn to him like 6 months ago and basically like, babe, you don't really crack on to me, you don't grab my ass as much as you used to. And he's like, babe, I'm in my 40s, I met you when I was in my early 20s. He's like, it's not going to be, it's not going to be the same. And I swear to God, girl, immediately I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And I could have I could have spun, like, am I not giving him enough attention anymore? Am I spending too much time on the business? Am I not dressing sexy anymore? Do I not make an effort? Like, I haven't shaved my legs in 3 days. Is that making a difference? Like, I could have 100% have gotten in my own head about it being me.
And you just asked him, and he's like, I'm just not thinking about it, but your ass looks great. You're like, great, move about the cabin. We just trip ourselves out, and we have to stop. And that is the practice of just, to me, it just comes from the pause, from meditation, from slowing down. And before I catch myself, and before anyone catches themselves going off on this trip, asking the question, what's the truth? We're so used to beating ourselves up and finding that we are the problem.
Click here right now to hear why this relationship expert thinks you should stay single.
Loneliness is just a reflection of honesty. Like when you feel lonely, it's because you haven't found a connection that is true to you, and therefore you feel lonely in effect. So when I think about that within the context of life and people,